Push the go button. Let me make sure it turns on. Everything looks good.
There we go.
All right.
Getting there.
Getting there. All right. Guys should be good to go.
Okay. Now all I'm getting is just is streaming just chat. Okay. Good evening. This is Clint with AOR. Yet another exciting Wednesday. I didn't realize before we did this that tonight is the last debate, but I have a feeling that anybody that would be coming in to watch us has absolutely no interest in the debate either.
Yes.
So, I'm assuming that. So so tonight again, I have Mona Cliff, but she goes by from an Indian tribe. I mean, I'm going to sound really stupid. Could you please tell us the name of your tribe? Because it's not like the Cherokee or Choctaw or, the ones that all us dumb white people have heard about.
I wouldn't say really necessarily dumb white people. I wouldn't say that. I would say more, it would be like, it wasn't taught in schools, So I will kind of go with the longer spiel about my name. We're federally recognized as Grovant from Fort Belknap, Montana. But our own tribal name is Ananin, which means white clay people. And I am from the Frozen clan and the Medicine Bear clan on my Nakota side. And I'm also Eastern European. So I have a mixed bag, Cayuse and Nez Perce. So, yeah.
So was your tribe then known for pottery?
Or? No, we're Plains. Yeah, we're Plains people. We mainly were the ones that, migrated and followed the buffalo. That was the tribe that I came from. So my paternal lineage is the Plains tribes.
Okay. And your name is what in your tribal language?
My name is Hanuk Gane, which means cloud. She is spotted, but also spotted cloud. And that was a given name to me by my grandmother. I think I was like 12 and she just, there's different ways to get names, but she told me one day, she said, I want to give you this name and this is what it is. And it's a very old name in our tribe. I believe it's about 7 generations old. So yeah, it's been handed down and so that's what it means is spotted cloud.
And did you ever discuss with her why spotted cloud?
No, really, they didn't. She didn't really give me kind of like an explanation as to what the full meaning of the name is, but in the language cloud she is spotted, it would be more like the person's name is cloud and maybe a characteristic of them, maybe they had freckles, so something like that. That's what I got when I kind of went further into what the name of the meaning of the name is. Yeah.
So it seems that she was very instrumental in a lot of parts of your life.
Yes, very, very instrumental. They were very involved in my upbringing. When I was 11, my parents separated and I moved to Eastern Washington from Portland to go live with my dad and brother. And so they were nearby. And they were the grandparents that were like at every game, they were just always there. She saved every single piece of my art. Like, so she was a very looming figure in my life, which was good. I'm glad she was that way.
And it seems, and from your website, I saw that, she was the one who taught you beadwork.
Yes. Yeah, I went to a private art school in Seattle, Washington called Cornish College of the Arts. And I was really unsatisfied with, I was happy to learn painting and sculpture. I got my major in printmaking and photography. And so, but I felt a real disconnect to my own tribal techniques, traditional crafting techniques, and also a real disconnect to my, I had never been away from my family before. And so moving to Seattle and being disconnected from them, and being surrounded by non-natives was difficult for me too. It's a whole different world within our own tribal. I mean, each tribe has their own ways, and then there's kind of like, a pan-indigeneity sometimes that we can all connect with. But yeah, when you're not around natives, you really miss that, like, so
I completely understand that. I mean, I have to admit, on an opposite extreme, that I grew up in the Midwest, and where I lived was, 99% white.
yeah,
I never even was, I think in my school there was one African American family, because there were a couple kids throughout kind of the district, and so with that, and so yeah, I don't think, and my college was pretty white, very white.
yeah,
Too. And it wasn't until I think I got out to Manhattan grad school where I really started meeting a lot of really all kinds of different people, because
yeah,
because I also went to a private college in Missouri, and so yeah, it was the same college my dad had gone to, and so because my background is in mental health. I mean, the art has always been something that I've done for myself, because times when I've looked back at where I've made turns away from art, and I've always come back, and
yeah.
so yeah, it's always been something that's been very important to me. So,
Yeah. Go ahead.
no.
Oh, well, I've had, an interesting, when it even comes to like Native American identity, in my raising, I've had an interesting upbringing because, my grandparents they're both gone now, but they were from Montana, and they were a part of the Relocation Act. And so they moved to LA, and that's where my dad was born. And then they went around the country until they landed in Oregon. And so I grew up kind of with an experience being around the tribes in Oregon, but also like predominantly white, elementary school. And then it was middle school. We went to Eastern Washington. But yeah, so I've had a mixed upbringing, you know what I mean? It's kind of reflective of who I am anyways, but.
So did your grandmother ever see any of your contemporary work?
She passed away 2007. And so at that time, I was doing some art kind of previously to that, but, I was just kind of meandering around the country and being a wanderer, and I wasn't settled at all. And then I decided to come here to Haskell, Indian Nations University here in Lawrence. And I met my partner, he's my partner now. We've been together since 2004.
Okay.
And so then I, started, so my grandmother passed away the same day my daughter my firstborn was born.
Oh, wow.
And I got to talk to her and tell her that I had a little girl. And so then she passed not too far, soon after that.
Wow.
Yeah, so she didn't see my contemporary like beadwork. She did see some of my other collages and older works that I've done, but
Okay.
yeah.
What do you think she'd say? Would she?
Oh my gosh, she'd be just over the moon. Oh yeah.
Okay.
I know. Even now, she's proud of me. Like I know, I can just know that in our beliefs, we believe that our ancestors do check in on us and look over us, and so I know that she's looking at me, and I know that I'm making her proud. So I'm not too worried about it. Like
that's really cool. I mean, yeah, it's too bad that she really didn't get to see the contemporary work, to see how it grew from. I mean, she taught you beadwork for when you're how old?
I was just 19.
Okay.
Yeah, I asked her. I went home for 19, or I might have been 20. It was 20 or 19. It was right around there. You know, I just remember going home one weekend and asking her, like, you know, Grandma, you know how to do this? And she had all of these beads that she had been collecting, and she couldn't bead anymore because she started getting arthritis. And
Sure.
so you have to have a lot of dexterity when you're doing it. And so she showed me how to do it. She spent the weekend showing me how to do a rosette. And then after that, you know, she gifted me this like box of beads, everything she'd been collecting. And so I still have a lot of those beads that she gave me, the antique ones.
You do you just add one or two to each piece, or do you keep them? Oh,
Unfortunately, they've all got kind of mixed in because I also
okay.
have a
Well,
hoarding habit.
yeah,
And
me
then I've been kicking
obviously,
myself.
obviously me too. You just see a very small part
Yeah.
of me behind.
Yeah, I can kind of tell still because the way that the older beads look are very ununiformed, and so now everything's perfect, you know. And I really don't like that, because when you're using those older beads, or even, yeah, vintage or whatever they call them, antique, um there's all different kinds of sizes, and it just really lends a more characteristics to your beadwork, I believe, you know. So I can still tell there's ones and colors that she had given me, but then, yeah, through my beading years, I've collected quite a bit.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, I everybody I talk to that has some unusual. I'm at a show up in Roseville, and I had the artist Robin Bernstein on a couple weeks ago, and she works with thread. I mean, she cuts these big things out of plywood, then puts this special kind of wax on it that just, and then she presses in and cuts and presses in and cuts, and they're amazing work. But and then she's done all the work is about the Holocaust, which is,
Okay.
it's this really beautiful, colorful work, and then you get into it and then start realizing what it is, and it's just like, oh, kind of
Yeah.
moment. So yeah, I've really I've learned on this a lot of really interesting different types of types of non-traditional art, which I think is so cool. One of
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of part of what my mission is, you know, as an artist, you know, and having a fine arts background, and being frustrated with the status quo of, you know, who decides what art is and what materials that we use. Like, who were those people? And, you know, why are all of these knowledge systems being excluded because it was deemed by some person to be less than what a master's art painting or whatever these other, you know, materials are. So that's kind of what I try to push in my own artistic narrative, is the use of materials. And, you know, traditional materials for me, you know, I actually just went through a 4-day workshop where I learned how to do quill work. And
oh,
quill working is predates colonial contact. Like, you know, this is one of the oldest. I mean, there's pottery and weaving, there's all these art forms and knowledge systems within this continent. But quill work is really distinct to the plains area, wherever you would find porcupines, you know, right? And so, yeah, like, I did a 4-day workshop, and I felt so grateful to be a part of that, because I was learning something that my ancestors, you know, may have done too. And it's a very difficult art form to master. I mean, I'm probably will spend, like, I need one more thing to like spend money on,
yeah.
like I'll probably, or, you know, yeah, collect more. But yeah, I made these earrings, and I was really proud of myself because it took me about half a day to make them, or even almost a whole day. And it's a very difficult art form.
So those
So
are made out of porcupine quills.
yeah,
Really?
yeah. They're
Wow.
dyed, and you take those porcupine quills, and I even stabbed myself a few times, and you flatten them out, and it's a wrapping technique. And so the way that this man, his name is Dana Warrington, he was giving us the workshop, and there's several different ways that you can do quill work, but this one is you wrapping something like a small piece. And I guess traditionally it would have been rawhide, but now we were just using like a plastic thing. So
Okay.
um but yeah, you know, these techniques and these materials change, and sometimes these applications stay the same, you know. Like ribbons like we use now. It's one of these main things that we use within our regalia, but it was a trade item, and so was beads. Beads were trade items, and so there's these things that we've ultimately taken and made them our own. We've basically taken them over,
Yeah,
which is awesome.
at least something.
Yeah.
So with the quill now, I know the quills are hollow. So
Yeah.
then you tear them, you pull them apart. So you're using just and then they're, I guess, flexible enough then to weave and do all kinds of things with.
Yeah, you actually just flatten them. Like it was flattening. We had like a little half size of a ruler.
Okay.
Or I guess traditionally too, you could pull them in between your teeth and then wet them too, because when they were really dry, it was hard to wrap them. But once we got them wet, it was easy peasy.
Wow.
And then on the back part, it's kind of like a weaving technique almost, where you lay the one quill down and you wrap it and then rewrap over the last one. So you're just wrapping over each one. So to hold it all in place.
Cool. So obviously that's going to find some avenue into your work now. Into your
For sure. Yeah, I'm already making like lots of plans, but I need to get better at it because it is still, there's so much I have to learn, about how to apply that to, all different other forms. And so I think I'm just going to take quite a bit of time to practice every day and really kind of, get a good feel for what I'm doing. And then I'll probably continue on. And I do have an idea about possibly going in the tech tradition, like traditional creating with the quills too. So I'm planning on going that way with the whole futurism. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's just always fascinating. I mean, I think porcupine quills is just something hard and stay away from. But,
Right.
And I would assume they shed them every season or whatever, and so you're not doing anything to harm the animal at all.
I haven't quite gotten into understanding, but I don't think that they shed them.
Okay.
I think they're trapped, or either I hear a lot of people talking about getting roadkill. So there's only like a specific part of the porcupine that they use. They don't use all of them. It's only certain parts off the body. Yeah, the whole workshop, I just kept thinking, and to myself when I was doing this, like, who is that first person who thought like I'm gonna use this, and put it on stuff, like that just kept kind of going through my mind.
Yeah, but I don't know. I guess they used every other part of the animal.
Right.
Oh, they brought skin, the bones, the meat, and everything else. So, I mean, that's one thing that I think I've always really loved is that the Native Americans were the first ecologists, because they purely did not impact the land, because they saw the importance and the connection. So,
yeah. Well, they understood their relationship and their place, and because there was many teachings that was given to me, and understanding like our place amongst everything, and it wasn't that we were above anything else, so we were interconnected with everything. So when they killed deer, or even if you picked berries or dug roots, you gave thanks for that, because you understood that even that plant was giving up its life for your life, and so that understanding really, you couldn't untangle that from everything the way that we lived. And so, yeah, like totally using every part of the porcupine. You have to cull through all of those quills to get just the right size to use them. And so I could see not wanting to waste it. Yeah, definitely.
And quills were used for sewing as needles.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's all.
They are. I poked myself. It's yeah.
No, I don't doubt that for a minute. So, how does all of this fit into nature futurism? interesting that 2 Fridays ago on NPR, when I'm driving around, that's about all I listen to on the radio if I can get it. And on Science Friday, they were talking about Afro futurism, and then it morphed into people talking about a whole bunch of different things. And could you help me understand native futurism?
Yeah, I mean, I actually just took part in another project here recently through a woman named, her name is Alicia B. Warnsley, and she's doing this. She has a fellowship, and she had what is those big boards called? A billboard, and on the billboard she had placed, there are Black people in the future, and so her art surrounds that phrase, and so she invited some artists to come and make art in reflection to that. And so I've been thinking a lot about what is native futurism. And, ultimately, I really probably wouldn't have had like a very good answer like a couple weeks ago, even in the midst of me doing this art. I think there's many different reasons. One of them is that there was a frustration in people thinking that like we're relics of the past. That was one of the main reasons why I started creating art. I feel like using my art is like my way of elbowing my way into the world and saying, you know what, we're here still, and I just finished this public art project, and that was the main focus of my project was native visibility, because the town I live in, even though we have the Haskell Indian Nations University, there's nothing out in the rest of the city that reflects who we are, as Native people. And there's a lot of Natives that come and live here. They live here and they have their lives here, like me. I came, I met my husband, we had our children here. And so I felt like a lot of my art is reflecting on that we're contemporary people. And then when I started doing this project about Native, kind of including and incorporating this Native futurism into my art, I started thinking about my ancestors and how in their beliefs, they were always thinking about 7 generations into the future. And that's always that thinking that we're going to think ahead for our grandchildren, grandchildren, grandchildren. So if you think about it, in a way, our ancestors were like native futurists, they thinking way ahead to who, what we were going to be doing now. And so that's kind of my what I need to be doing to be a good ancestor is to be thinking 7 generations from now. Like what's, where are my great grandchildren going to be? And so, I think that all comes and ties together because I'm using these techniques and these materials that are, some people believe they're antiquated, and I wanted to push them into a realm where they still are taking up space in the present and then also taking up space in the future. Like they could fit either way. So it's like fitting in all aspects of the timeline. It's not necessarily linear. It's like, it's a cyclical cycle. That's what I'm thinking about when I'm doing my art.
So what it is taking contemporary, basically, is it, and I don't want to sound, well, I'm going to sound ignorant anyway.
It's okay.
It's basically taking science fiction in a very loose term and making it relevant with, as you said, your 7 generations and 7 generations back, of keeping that within the context of science fiction in a very broad sense.
Yeah, I mean, and I can't exclude that, growing up, I was influenced by science fiction. Most people want to say Star Wars. It wasn't Star Wars for me. It was Dune. And so Frank Herbert, whoever, Dune was what really influenced me growing up. I was young, and that was like one of my first, really falling in love, because I could immerse myself into a world that, was only of your imagining. And so there was many parts that, growing up, of course, and, just teenager doing all that stuff that influenced, and I feel like I've still been packing that along with me. And so I feel like it's maybe that I didn't notice that it was working its way into my art as well, and then also my partner, he is a writer, and he hasn't started it, but he often discussed with me like a lot of the ideas that he has for his books or fiction, and so when we're driving along and he was telling me about this idea that he had, and this is what I was imagining, and this kind of came out of the gas mask that I beaded, and yeah, that's kind of where that went too. So there's a lot of different influences.
Okay. Yeah, because the gas mask again. Could you held it up for me beforehand, so I gotta. Yeah, because I saw it on your website. Because that also again seems really a different avenue for you as using the beadwork more as just a covering.
Yeah. I kind of kept thinking when I was making this. So I just completed a residency. It was a virtual residency through the Institute of American Indian Arts in Santa Fe. And so this was about 6 months ago that I applied for it. And so I had to have a proposal, when I was applying for this residency. And my proposal was to just continue the QR beadwork that I had done. And so that was kind of like where the QR beadwork was born from, was a conversation I had with a friend of mine through Instagram. We were talking about social justice, like, political art, and how sometimes there are artists who fall short with connecting, I guess, with their art, maybe to resources that could help people, maybe take it further than just seeing the art.
Right.
And that's kind of where that came from, was me thinking, and how can I include that or make a change? And, with the QR codes, I was also getting really frustrated at that time with not being able to have access to traditional knowledge systems when it comes to designing and understanding the designs that we used in the Plains tribes, and so I kind of just that QR came from that. I just kind of wanted to. So the QR, the beaded QR code, if you scan it, will take you to my Twitter account.
That's what I was going to ask you, because I saw
Yeah.
that. Because they look like they're a fairly large size, I guess, big enough that you can make enough detail so it would act like a real one.
Yeah, it is. It is scannable. It was very difficult because it's only about 5 by 5 inches. So it's not that big, and I had to use really tiny beads. And so, like in the beading world, they're size 13s, and that's fairly small. Okay. It's right at the beginning of micro beads, and 11 and anything above is huge. 13 and smaller, so the higher the number gets, the smaller the bead gets. So and so yeah, there was several reasons for me creating that QR code. Was a frustration. It was also like thinking about the conversation we had about bringing users to maybe access resources that they can get more information through art. So that was kind of where I was thinking, and that's where I was going. And so the gas mask is just kind of like a natural evolvement. And, maybe as I started creating, when I said I was going to proposing to continue my tech tradition, like series, I didn't really know what I was going to do. I thought I was just going to make more dresses and more QR codes. And then once I started getting into the residency is when, I was like, I'm going to beat a gas mask. Why? I don't know. And then now it's like, I'm looking at it in this current state we're in, there's climate change, there's like COVID, that must have just been coming into my unconscious. Like, it takes a lot of work though, because beading is not like, it's slow.
I can just imagine. I mean, going back to Robin, and her pieces were pretty large, but she would spend, up to 6 months on a piece, and and tens of thousands of snips and stuff. That it was. She said it was very there was kind of a zen. There was a very kind of thing that she could get into, and because of her connection to the Holocaust through her ancestors, that it was a real. That's what kind of gets her through it, is that it's just this really soothing kind of activity.
Yeah, yeah, and when contemporary Native people practice traditional crafting, it is, in a way, it's even us being here is an act of resistance. You know what I mean? And so learning traditional crafting and carrying on those ways is an act of resistance. You know what I mean? And I sometimes I just want to create art without thinking too much about it. I just want to just make it, but then you have to plan. You know what I mean? So this piece right here, I kind of tried to follow my intuition, and this is only the first piece. The gas mask is a first piece to a whole entire regalia that's going to go along with it, and ultimately an installation. And hopefully, I've got to write proposals and all that.
All that fun stuff.
Yes, all the fun stuff.
No, and getting back to your QR codes again, that was, I could see again the Native futurism, that here's a traditional outfit, but it has a QR code.
Yeah.
And I could see everybody with their cell phones, doing it, and then it would give like their lineage or whatever for the individual. So it would use new technology to keep old knowledge alive.
Yeah. I mean, there's endless applications, especially using QR codes. And I believe that was one of the reasons why I just went with my Twitter account, because at the time I didn't have a website. I didn't know, I knew how to generate a QR code, but you need a website. And then that really had me thinking about what I wanted to connect that to. And so like I said, the lack of access to traditional teachings, and because there are some people who really don't have anybody to teach them. I have a YouTube channel, and I only uploaded a few beading videos. I'd actually just made them for my cousin, and I thought, oh, I'll put this up here, just for whoever in case they want to see it. And I didn't think anybody was going to see it. And holy cripes, like way later, there's all kinds of views and people saying like, oh, I wish you were my auntie, or thank you for helping me bead. And so, I'm able to pass on this knowledge. And even in that self, passing on that knowledge through YouTube in itself is like a, tech tradition,
Right, yeah.
And yeah, like
it will hopefully stay for 7 generations,
right.
in some order. So you're thinking you're putting beading into the future.
Yeah, in a way. I mean, just the that simple process of collecting that knowledge, is important in itself. And my great grandmother, my paternal mother's grandmother, there was an anthropologist who had come to interview them. And so she, a lot of people were like, oh, we're not going to talk to this guy, and she did. She said, I'm going to do it because, one day my great grandkids will probably want to know about this stuff. And, I'm able to access her knowledge through this book. So she was thinking about us too a long time ago. Yeah. That was like 4 grades ago. So I have access to that. So I guess in a way I've in turn done that for the future generations too.
Yeah. You were talking about public art. Is that local in Lawrence? Is that the Native Now thing on East 9th, or is that something else?
Yeah, that's it was a grant through Art Place America. Okay. And the Lawrence Art Center, supported by the East Lawrence Neighborhood Association. And so I, when they had a call for art or RFQ, whatever it is, the only reason I applied was because they said they had like people that were going to be able to help you through all aspects of public art, because I didn't have any background in it. And so that's why I applied, and I got it. And my main goal was like Native visibility, just making art for us so we can see ourselves out in the community, but also raising awareness about whatever issues we have. And I felt that what I did was, to me, I felt very small, but it did mean a lot to a lot of people. And so that, and it was able to generate some informational exchange, between natives and non-natives, which is good. So, yeah.
So what did you how big of a piece is it and what did you do?
So being my first public art, I kind of went a little bit nuts. And so I have a mural, like it was a small mural. I had to work within these confines. And then in conjunction with the mural, I planted some indigenous trees, fruiting trees. So pawpaw and persimmon and chokecherries. So and then with the mural, I wanted to acknowledge like the tribes who lived here prior to, settlement. And so that's kind of what I did, was I planted those trees and I painted botanical renderings of the trees. Because if you're like me, I'm always wanting to learn. And if I want to know where that plant is or what it looks like, I'd like to see the botanical rendering. So that's what that was. Okay. And then I did a photography part of it. And we did this all pre-COVID. We got over 200 portraits of natives in the community. And then we were going to project them, over the course of 4 months, twice a month. And then COVID happened and it changed everything. So yeah, I just wanted to, make natives visible. I just feel sometimes, I just keep talking about that, but it really is frustrating when, you get mascots and you get all these things and people don't think that we're here, or that we're even human, or that we're even alive, So just focusing on visibility is being like the most important part of my art practice, and sharing that we're vibrant culture and people and that we're alive and thriving. That's my main goal.
Mm-hmm. So do you think that Native American plight has been helped by like the Black Lives Matter? It seemed to me that a lot of it kind of trickled out. I mean, it was the Redskins, I'm sorry, that they have they'd been battling for they said I don't know how many decades with their name, and just continued to blow it off, and that's changed. So it does really seem like there's some pretty long coattails, I guess, that a lot of people can use to get more exposure now.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, this is only my opinion. I can only speak for myself. I really can't speak for anybody else. But, I just feel that what I'm seeing now is a solidarity with everybody and understanding that it really is us, like, needing to come together and supporting each other. And so through Black Lives Matter, and supporting missing and murdered Indigenous women, and I really believe, social media has changed so much.
Oh, absolutely.
It's really been an asset for Native people and, Black Lives Matter and all of these we're able to share that. And I think that some people are like, why are you still complaining about this? And, I'm only just hearing about this. Well, I made art about this 20 years ago when I was in college about the mascots, like that was 20 years ago. And still it took that long for them to just even recognize that we're human beings. Like, and so it's important to, I don't want to say, we do need all the help we can get. We really do, because our population is so much smaller, and how we've been represented in the media or not represented in, movies and all these things had an impact on all of these people and how they see us, you know what I mean? And so I think that's why it's easier for people to just blow us off and not think that we're, we deserve dignity. You know what I mean? Like, we deserve that. We deserve to be seen as human beings, that these, people that have these thriving cultures.
Yeah.
And so I think that, I guess to answer your question, it's like, I think we're all starting to understand that we all need to help each other, and we need our allies, and that, all the help we can get.
That's right. I forget who some politician we I want to say it was Bill Clinton maybe about needing a village to it takes everybody.
Yeah.
And I think hopefully that we have careened so far off to the crazy land that this next election will bring some sanity back here.
Well, and in a way, like, you know, Donald Trump, he lit a fire under people's butt. It's like, it's probably what needed to happen. I mean, there's always, if you how you choose to look at it too. It's like, that was needed to push all these people to get involved and to make changes and to do these things. And even with all the strife that's happening right now, people are coming together. It's pulling us together. You know what I mean?
Oh,
to
absolutely.
know who we're fighting against. But I think another thing too is that a lot of times the positive parts are being overlooked by all of the nonsense. You know what I mean? I mean, that always, everybody wants to, clamor to the nonsense and the craziness.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
Trump is a master of nonsense.
Oh yeah, yeah.
He's the king of nonsense. I mean, but we could spend a whole hour just talking about that. So how did Karen find your work for the Not Normal book?
I believe it was Lisa Donahue. Oh my gosh, Lendub Studio. They found my husband or my partner. He has a page on Instagram called, he's Osage Native Scholar, and he does a lot of memes and historical memes, I guess, and like teaching. And so she found him, and then I guess found my page, and then tagged Karen in my work, that the 4th of Your Lies piece. So that was just right after the George Floyd killing, like, and that was kind of my response to that, and seeing all of the protesting and the frustration with white supremacy. Like, that was, to me, if you're familiar with that piece, I see that white supremacy is hiding behind patriotism.
Right, because you have to really look at the flag really hard and then you go, because you think, oh, it's just paint strokes,
Yeah.
You start seeing the rhythm, and then you go, oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I wanted it to be very subtle, because I feel like with systemic racism, that's what it is. It's subtle. It's not in your face. Yeah, we have a few of those crazy militia guys out there with their guns toting around and trying to puff up their chest, but for the most part, systemic racism it's systemic. It's in there. It's built into the system that we all abide by. And so the frustrating part about it is that you can't always put your finger on just one spot. It's all over the place, and so that I wanted it to be subtle and not exclusively, not just right up in your face. It is, when you first see it, kind of, but yeah.
No, it's interesting because obviously I went through the book, and your work was one, because I went through the whole book and picked out people from there, because I talked to Karen. She said, yeah, I'll give me a list that you want to know, and I can give you their emails for the show, because she was on there. Oh, one of the very, very first ones.
Oh, cool.
And, but yeah, I mean, that's who I've been talking to recently, are other artists that were in the book. So I think that is a connection beyond the or an additional element to the political art and our practice in general.
Yeah.
So what's on the horizon? What's in the future?
For me, I'm just going to continue working on, the gas mask, the regalia that's going to go with it. Um, I'm, trying to do more when it comes to bringing Native artists here to Lawrence and kind of shaking things up here, like, just making our presence more known. And so on a smaller scale, I'm able to do that, bringing another artist, his name is Yadika Fields here, he's Osage, and he'll be doing a mural here. And so I've been working on getting that together and raising money for him to come. And yeah, so just trying to get funding. Like that's always, if I had $1,000,000, it'd be done by now. But
Then you wouldn't have learned anything.
yeah,
Then
exactly.
you
Like how to
had-
do.
yeah, you would have had someone do it for you.
Yeah. So, just continuing to make art and make, native, try to be a good representative of native art. And so yeah, that's on the horizon for me. Yeah.
So do are there people in Lawrence that are native? I guess do they get you get mixed signals from them about your art? Do you ever get anything from any of the old more traditionals thinking that you were doing something improper with it?
Not yet. Not so far. Like, I mean, maybe if I showed up at a powwow wearing that, they might be like, "Who's this?" and "What is she doing here?" And like, "Oh, that's not right." I don't know, but
That would be interesting. I mean, do you think
that
that they would frown on that?
probably not. I don't think so. I think everybody's so receptive. My art kind of traverses many different forms at this point. I think maybe sometime I'll solidify it or it might come more into focus, but I feel like I'm trying to just be intuitive and just go with, if I get a feeling that I need to address something, I'll just go for it. Like with the 4th of July's painting,
Mhm.
you know, um, it is so outside of my, what I normally do.
Yeah.
And
No,
and
absolutely.
so with this, with the I am going to incorporate QR code into this regalia, and so I renamed this whole, these pieces. I've renamed it past, presence, and future. And
Okay.
so that's going to be the overarching like name and theme behind like all of these QR pieces. Instead of, I had originally went with tech traditions, but I wasn't really feeling that name, and so um, when I made this gas mask, it really came to me about that, because I'm using these older traditional ways and referencing these futuristic things right now and bringing those two together, just kind of how we exist anyways. You know what I mean? We all kind of
Yeah. Sure.
exist simultaneously. Um, and so, yeah, that's why I named that past, presence, and future. And so I'm just going to continue working on that. And most everybody, I guess, if I'm not in their circles and they think that, for the most part, everybody's been really receptive to this work. So
No, and I could see, yeah, you're again talking about teaching and passing things on. I mean, I could, if you put the same QR code on each piece, that would go to a dedicated website
yeah,
that went into all the traditional and you could share your lineage there, and what came, what generated the QR code. I mean, that would be, and then I would see that as being, something that a lot of Native Americans could get behind. I mean, to a sense of being able to show us, or non, us foreigners, to more of the history and more of the art, because then you could slap up all these QR codes around, and then they would go, then they would go back to the pieces, and then there'd be another layer beyond that.
yeah. I mean, uh, you know, something redirecting people to climate change or what we can do. I know that we all have our personal responsibilities, but also holding corporations accountable. for what they're doing to the environment, like holding all of these people who have control accountable. That's, so I feel like solution based is also, what I want to bring to those pieces. And but also, looking into the future, but also preserving the past and the presence, and present now, and like, um helping communities retain this knowledge, because that knowledge connects you to the surroundings. All each of these different tribes, their art forms are born from the specific place that they were at, and so that understanding and connection to the earth is where it comes from. And so utilizing these materials that came from that very place that you're at all the time is, it's necessary to keep that connection, so we can, help preserve the climate and help others understand the need to do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that's all relevant. Yeah, it's definitely going to be something that's going to be incorporated in utilizing that QR code, because it is something that we don't, I feel like a lot of people, it's just right here on my water bottle, there's a QR code. We just kind of overlook the presence of it.
Right.
And so bringing it out into the forefront, and making that a part of my art, but making it be useful is important.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
With this.
Yeah. No, completely. Um, well, we've got 9 minutes left. So
Oh,
see, this went like that. It all, once we get rolling, I mean, it just, it's just good.
yeah.
Uh, Anything else that we haven't touched on that you'd love to put on, air? Because you're talking about history, is that what happens to this after tonight is that Katie and Julian in the next week or so will put it up. We have a YouTube channel that
Okay.
has all of these on it. In addition to the video, they put up all kinds of any links or anything that you would like. And so, again, that's a chance to I guess posterity. I don't know. I don't see anybody 7 generations from now tuning in to ancient YouTube videos to watch this, but who knows?
You never know.
You
You
have
never know.
you never know. I mean, that's what life is all about, right? I mean, that's it. It's the journey. It's a process, and I think most people lose sight of that.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
happy. They're content. They want it such and such, but they give up so much that they don't even know that they're missing. I think that's
Yeah.
the sad part, is that they don't even know. The whole point of it is that they don't even know what they're missing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, maybe if there's anything, I've noticed that a lot of people always want to know what they can do to help, especially like natives. And I feel that the best thing you can do is, if you have the means to help fund programs that, keep traditional arts alive, and pay culture bearers, find a way to help that way. And programming is so important in bringing people together and creating communities, even within the cities, especially for natives. I think about my grandparents being in LA from Fort Belknap. They didn't even have
Wow.
electricity, they and they were
like
there.
Beverly Hillbillies almost.
Yeah, no, yeah, they were, my grandpa was hunting deer at the age of 9, you know what I mean?
Sure.
He just was amazing, provider. And so thinking about that, like, what kept people together was these Indian centers in the cities. People were able to connect with each other no matter what tribe they were from. It was like, yeah, oh, okay, you're native, I'm native, right on. It's just like that acknowledgement. And so I think that what I've continued to see from our allies is that they want to know what they can do to help. And so for me, it's always like, help with funding, help with programming. If you have the ability to share um, natives' work, do it. You know what I mean? Just and don't just, happenstance come upon them, like actively seek, because our voices are so, I believe, stifled by, an acknowledgement from so many different, platforms. And so I feel like just seeking people out for this, to help them is the best thing.
Okay.
That's all I
Now
can.
I just got a tweet from Katie.
Okay. Okay.
And she said, and it said, Monica got a shout out from Sarah Cheerio Shatter. Do you know who that is?
No.
I'm enjoying it. It says exciting. It's excited to see all your projects come to life. So it must
Nice.
be somebody that at least got familiar with you at some point a while ago. So
Right on. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I yeah, hopefully I can bring some focus. I've been praying about that, like bringing focus to my work, and just kind of trying to barrel through, I mean, being a mom of 3, it's a juggling act, it really, and then the kids are being homeschooled, and so I'm doing my best to try to keep up and keep working, but I'm only one person.
it's got to be almost impossible. But now, have you are any of your children interested in pursuing native arts?
Oh, it's outside. I wish I could show you my daughter, my middle daughter. She is talented. She's 11. She just turned 11, and she's working her way through art anime style, which is fine because I believe that these influences of her upbringing and teachings, they're going to find their way in there eventually. I think we all, with natives today, we're all incorporating our experiences, and I mean, I was like a total rocker goth chick when I, and that's all made its way into my work, back in the day. And so, I think that at the moment she's doing anime, and I'm like, cool, go with it, girl. Like,
Yeah.
and yeah.
Again, you're talking about again. Oh, she said it's Evelyn is Serial Cheeto Shatter.
Okay.
That's Evelyn, whoever. Hopefully, Evelyn, you know who Evelyn is, but
I do know an Evelyn. Yeah.
okay, good. So that was from her.
Right on. Thank you.
Her handle on Instagram. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. Right on. I'm so glad somebody's watching. That's cool.
Yeah. No, I've been told that people, actually do watch this, and it gets a lot, and Katie has said that it gets a lot more hits on when it's on YouTube.
Oh, right on. Okay.
Because I mean, this is like the old-fashioned TV show.
Yeah.
You saw it once, and then you might see it in reruns in the summer if you're lucky, or you lost it.
Yeah, or even the local stations that played a crazy program in the middle of night, like local TV. Oh my gosh, I remember that. Like
all kinds of crazy stuff. So, are you guys? Is Lawrence home for at least for a while, or is this where roots start to grow?
Oh yeah, yep, definitely got roots here. My partner, he works over at Haskell. He's a professor over there. He teaches American Indian Studies. Okay. And so I think we're gonna, be here for quite a while.
Good. Yeah. Now, are his students mostly Native Americans, or is there a mixed, or is it?
Oh yeah, Haskell is actually originally was one of the boarding schools, okay. And then it's turned into.
They all they shipped all the native.
And so it eventually made its way into a university, and so you need to be from a federally recognized tribe to be able to attend. And there's people that come from Alaska, all over the United States, and you get these crazy mixes of natives, like you get like an Alaskan Lakota and your Inuit Lakota, there's some crazy, my kids are Assiniboine, Ananin, and then there are Creek, and Osage. So they're all different things. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
No,
we wouldn't
that's-
have met if it wasn't for Haskell.
yeah. That's so cool. Well, we are up on 7 o'clock.
Okay.
You want to say your website's name, or
Do you guys want to keep going for a little bit?
I'm
Oh,
sorry,
sure.
The voice.
I'm sorry. What, Julian?
I was going to see if you guys wanted to keep talking for a little bit longer.
No,
People are really
I mean,
enjoying it, that's all.
We can wrap it up. I mean, she's
Okay.
taken this hour plus away from her kids and her partner, and so, and in Kansas, well, it's what? Well, it's only what, it's 2 hours ahead.
Yeah, it's 9 o'clock here,
Yeah.
but they're all in bed now. So
Are
it's
they?
like, this is when I get to chill and
Right.
kind of wind down and just have a moment to myself, or I have to get up at 5 a.m.
Oh,
to
now
do
she
that.
said there's a bunch of people watching. So
Oh, wow.
you want to chit chat do you have a couple more minutes then?
Yes, I do. I don't mind. Yeah.
Okay. One thing that I guess it might have been Katie who asked me, texted me this. The colors on the quills, is that all natural dyes or
Yes, they would have been dyed using some kind of, milling technique, but actually, we weren't able to completely go over dyeing techniques, but he said he uses Kool-Aid and RIT.
Oh,
Is it RIT or RIT? The dye that you buy at the store for dyeing
Yeah.
clothes.
that we used to do tie-dye with.
Yeah, that's what it is. And so I guess they take to dyeing really well. And so yeah, like he just says he experimented with a lot of the colorings and he just had so many different colors. But it takes a long time because you have to boil it and cool it and then you have to mix colors, and he said that whole part was just an art form unto itself. And
Sure.
so yeah. So Kool-Aid. He was talking about Kool-Aid packets. I was like, right on.
Well, that's,
Yeah.
yeah, you can dye and drink and at the same time. So yeah, that's what I love about this is just learning different stuff, talking to different artists from.
Yeah.
No, and it was really one thing. I'll go off on a small tangent for a second. On Facebook, it was a couple days ago. There was a map of California, and all that was drawn is what areas were which tribes or which nations or that were in the area, and there were probably at least 20 or 20 or 25 different, and I could just imagine, just as you said, the plains, that even with California, with it being so diverse, that you probably had an ecosystem again from the desert all the way up to snow and big trees, and
Yeah.
so everything, it's all there.
Yeah, I mean, the art forms, it's usually what I kind of have a tendency to focus on is the art forms from, different tribes. And although I'm not familiar with a lot of the California tribes, I was an intern at the National Museum of the American Indian back in 2004, and we worked at the Cultural Resource Center. And so right at that time, they had just built the new museum, and they were transferring all of those, is the George Gustav High collection. And so they were transferring that collection from New York to DC, well, Suitland, Maryland. And we got to view a lot of those different things. And there was this whole section of weaving baskets from the Pomo tribe. And they could weave a basket that was the size of a bead. It was amazing. But I don't know, I couldn't tell you what kind of materials. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's people who know much more.
Sure.
I have a tendency to just focus on plains tribes because that's my tribe.
Sure.
But the weaving all throughout the Northwest, like the Pacific Northwest, the Utes, I believe, the tribes all really utilized weaving within all of their art forms. And so like knowledge of collecting, when to collect, how to make those materials usable, I mean, that's, you know, that's why I say knowledge systems, because it's something that requires so much training to understand. And like with these quills, you know, the quills, you know, we only had, he said that the teacher, he said he normally does a 10-day workshop and he had to condense it into 4 days. And so we had like this power learning session, you know, just like, he said he just threw us in it. He's like, okay, you're going to learn to start rapping right now. And so I have examples. It's on my Instagram of my first one. And now even 4 days later with practicing, you know, just if you keep doing it, you know, that's all I can tell people is just keep doing it and keep learning as much as you can. And really, you know, now we live in this age of information right at your fingertips. You can learn so much just from Googling, you know, or YouTube.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess I've always been, because I don't have, as I said, I don't have an art background. It was always something I did for myself.
Mm,
But I've always been one through the mental health. What I did and worked in community in community mental health, and
mm,
so I always learned stuff, and I always knew that there was somebody who knew something in the mental health community that I could help. I couldn't know everything, and so you know I always knew who to call or what to do, and now yeah, knowledge is key. I mean
yeah.
that should be a real important currency in this world, and at least right now in this country that knowledge is seems like a sin. You know, the
Yeah.
I mean knowledge is bad, is basically what is what Trump says. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, calling Dr. You know an idiot and a moron. You know,
Yeah.
how many PhDs, how many MDs does this guy have? You know, and you won't show us your high school records or your college transcripts. Come on.
Yeah. It's a magician show. He's doing this while he's doing something else over here.
Yeah.
And, and that's, you know, unfortunately, that's nothing new, you know, in the history of the United States. It's always been a magic show. Well, I'm going to do this over here. I'm going to distract you over here while we're all doing everything we need to do over here while you're all distracted. And yeah, like knowledge in itself, you know, people not questioning, that's why, you know, the education system is the way it is. It's like they're not going to teach people how to think, they're not going to teach people how to ask questions or go any further than what they're already being told, because then that you can't control people that way, you know. And that's, I teach my kids that all the time. I'm like, question what they're teaching you, question what you're hearing, because without questioning, you're not going to learn, you know what I mean? You're not going to understand how things really are, or see the way that things really are. And yeah, I usually tend not to hate people, but man, he's really pushing it. Like, it's just, to me, it's just mind boggling and it's frustrating. You know, we've gone, you know, we're just feel like we're taking steps back, you know, instead of just moving
We're
forward.
running backwards.
Yeah. And, but then at the same time, like I said too, it's like, there's something that is good that's coming out of it. It's
No, I
just,
think you're right. I think
yeah,
it is.
through pain.
There
It's
are a lot of things. You're right. There's a lot of things that he has highlighted or glorified
mm,
that for years were all on the margins, on the edges, like the Ku Klux Klan or the white supremacy or militias or Proud Boys or whatever. I mean, they've always been there, you know,
yeah,
but he's really tried to, I guess, normalize them, and that's a shame. I think that you know that they need to be called what they are.
yeah. And you know, and honestly, like in my experience and growing up, you know, I had come from a city and into a rural community when I moved to Eastern Washington, and I experienced, out of anywhere and everywhere I've lived, the most racism I've experienced was in rural communities, you know. And it was normal. It was normal for people to not even know, you know, I am kind of on this ambiguous ethnic look. Like, I don't look like I'm Native, you know, that's one thing. And so people would just tell me, I've been told to go back to your country. And I'm like, well, shoot, I'm already here. Like, And so it has been normal. And I think that for people whose this white supremacy and racism is normal for them, and we're finally being able to challenge them and say that this isn't something that we need to continue, then they've lived in this privileged way, thinking that their thinking is the right way. And so now people are challenging them, and it feels like a challenge to them. And then they feel persecuted. And that's also something that that they're able to normalize too. Well, I'm being persecuted for my beliefs. When in reality, there's so many people that are already living persecuted lives. You know what I mean?
Oh,
And like the people who are coming from Central and South America, they're indigenous to this land. And they're the ones and then these people who are not from this continent, who are settlers here, are telling them that they're immigrants. And that's so wrong. Like, it's not right. You know what I mean? And that's what we're all fighting for now. I mean, social media has been able to bring us all together and be able to, go, all stand and rise up against them, Yeah.
No, absolutely. I can't agree with you more, or I wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
I would have felt, beyond making my art, thinking that there had to be more people out there that were doing similar work, because this is not usually a lot of gallery work, or or a lot of sales. And
Yeah.
so there had to be other people that were doing it for themselves, for the love of the material, the love of, or the need to do a message or to speak their mind.
Yeah. It's definitely not profitable for me to paint an 8-foot painting, and especially, I mean, I would consider myself an emerging artist. That's not something that's going to be profitable for me or easily able to just, get rid of or sell over some platform. But, it needed to be that size. It needed to be larger. And if I could have made it larger, I would have, but I only have a limited space in my house. And so
Yeah.
I probably would have made it like way bigger and, spent that time. And it was just that response to, and my frustration and living within that racism and feeling that and being treated that way myself. And even within my own belief systems, it's frustrating to live in a world where we're going by all of these other people's standards. Like when I've had to quit jobs, I've been fired because I wasn't they wouldn't give me time off to go to a ceremony, because all of my ceremonies that I participate happen in the summertime. And then people would think, oh, you're just going to go off and do this. No, I went to go work for a week. I didn't go take a vacation. And so, but yet we get Christmas, we get Thanksgiving. There's all of these like holidays that are just already set aside for everybody. But then they don't, I know we can't accommodate everybody, but at the same time, I think that it's important to acknowledge that people have different ways. It's
Right.
not just a Christian way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Timekeeping, the calendar. I mean, we all agree to use these same systems, but yet it doesn't apply to everybody. And then how does it affect our worldview? You know what I mean? So if you go
No, you're right. No, we get trapped in these bubbles.
Yeah.
And as we were saying before, most people are just happy in their bubble.
Yeah. It's complicit. Yeah. Complicity. It's like, that is, what is really the biggest harmful thing I think right now is people being complicit and not feeling like they need to change because they're comfortable. They don't want to go past their comfort. They don't want to see or reach outside of their bubble to understand anything. But things like this is good. You know what I mean? Just, generating a dialogue is important, and having people tune in and just hearing a different person's perspective. You know what I mean? But I think that's kind of goes hand in hand with the art world. I think that most artists kind of are always wanting to, learn more. Like I feel that's just the nature of an artist.
I don't know. I've talked
Yeah.
to painters that were pretty damn thought that was, they didn't want to learn anything else. Painting was it.
Oh,
And
yeah.
technique, and they had their whatever and da 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 da, and they were going to make their beautiful beautiful paintings and not look at anything else.
Yeah,
that happens in all mediums.
Yeah, that's true. Like, I mean, it's kind of like thinking that, painting is the only way or the only art form when there's many different, like with this whole with I feel like there's so many people challenging that, that idea about what fine art should be or could be, but
Yeah.
using these materials that were ultimately considered like just a craft, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
But,
no, absolutely. I mean, I'm using children's toys
yeah.
make fun- to make what I think is, fine art, and at least a couple other people think is worth showing. But I mean, that's, I think to me, maybe that not being raised artistically, maybe let because I didn't know better. So I
Yeah.
would I'd use whatever, if I needed to, I wanted to do some welding here, I'd go take a class to learn how to weld, or I liked, contemporary furniture, so I take a class to build, to learn how to build some furniture. But yeah,
Yeah, art school jaded me in a way. I didn't want to make art for a while after that because I was constantly questioning my motives and my materials. And it wasn't until after I had kids and then I really had to hyper focus on what I needed to do I was like, to the hell, to hell with them. Like, just I'm gonna make whatever I'm gonna make. And even then, still sometimes those teachers are in the back of my head, like telling me, what is proper. But then you get people who like what was his name who put the toilet? It was a toilet
oh
and put
yeah,
our butt.
agree. Oh no, I
Huh?
mean, oh damn.
What was his name? And then you get that.
I have
What is his name? I can't remember.
you can help us.
Right? It's
yeah,
gonna come to me after.
Now he doesn't talk. Katie, you tell me. Oh man, no, it wasn't Man Ray. He photographed. No,
Yeah, he did photographs.
it was what's his face that did the toilet. Yeah, there's a copy of it, and he put, I forget how he signed it.
Armut.
Yeah, Armut. Come on, who is that? Yeah, Deschamps.
Yes, that's who it is.
Yeah.
There's that. There's that, And so, breaking down these ideas of what art can and cannot be, especially in museums, is what a lot of people are going to have to be fighting against too. You know what I mean? Like, there's this compartmentalizing, like, what is westernized art and then also functional art, because most of the things that people used in, many different tribes, it's functional but it's art, it's practical but it's art, you know what I mean? And so like that those need to come down. Yeah, but I think I actually have to go. My battery's about ready to die.
Yeah, I mean we talked a blue streak. So Mona, this was great.
Thank you.
Keep our fingers crossed for 2 weeks from yesterday, and keep my fingers crossed that Trump's just being an asshole like he always is on the debate tonight, and
Yeah.
Does something and then storms off because they cut off his mic or something. But it was great. Thank you so much for sharing your art and your time with us.
Oh, you're welcome. I appreciated being asked to be here. And so I think you mentioned a website. It's www.monacliff.com. And I'm Spotted Cloud on Instagram and Mona Cliff on Facebook. And I really don't use Twitter. So, but those are the platforms you can find me on. And TikTok, I'm on TikTok now. But I appreciate being here and being able to talk. And, you made it really easy for me to be here. I'm usually like a deer in headlights. So
I guess 30 years in mental health, talking to people, I guess I have learned some, how to, I usually, I can talk to almost anybody.
That's cool.
I think that's what, we could go on over. Okay.
Yeah.
Julian, why don't we just, we can wrap this up. Okay.
All righty. Thank
Sounds
you.
good. Sounds good, guys.
We don't want Mona to just go blank.
Right.
So.
All right, guys, hold on a second. Let me stop the stream, okay?
Okay.
All right. All right.